So, it's the holidays. It's 2019, and there's a part of me that wants to make the resolution to open myself up. As if you know me on a personal level, I'm a very constricted individual. I'm practically claustrophobically self-involved, and I've made a New Year's resolution for 2019 to come out of my shell and speak to people about the problems that eat me up inside like a larva, waiting to break free from my chest and bloom into a butterfly. And it's really not easy. It's really not easy. I mean, it's really not. So the first step, I believe, in coming out of my shell for 2019 is to talk to you about the raging debate between me and my girl. She calls me Cuddles. I call her Snuggles. We have a raging debate. It's not terribly raging, actually, because I'm not talking a lot. I'm shut down. I have to force myself to talk like you're feeding me Gerber baby food. And I didn't want to eat it. Like, you get the spoon and you put it in my mouth, I'm like, that's what talking is like for me. I'm like, oh, I gotta get it out. So my girl, she calls me Cuddles. And I call her Snuggles, but we mix it up because we have this raging debate and we really sensitive to each other's needs. Like, I will sit home at my desk and I'll get out one of those yellow pads and I'll write out my girl's needs. And I know, because we're telepathically, clairvoyantly, empathically annexed over space and time through non-local causation, spooky action at a distance. Excuse me, that was the baby food. I'm gurgling at my Gerber. Because of spooky action at a distance and the quantum this and the quantum that and all the paradigms of the new age, I know that my baby, my girl, Snuggles, is at her desk with her yellow memo pad and she's writing out all my needs too. And I don't know if you're anything like me, you got a checkbox, you got a box beside each need. And since Senor Cuddles, or Captain Cuddles, is very needy, I'm sure she's got about 4 or 5 pages of checkboxes that she has to go through on the daily just to keep me happy. I didn't tell her that I had all these needs. I'm not that selfish, I'm not that self-absorbed. But Captain Cuddles is... he had a rough... I had a rough life. I haven't always been a captain of cuddling. She wasn't always Senora Snuggles either. No, absolutely not. We have been through lots of therapy, light years of therapy. That's how we met. We were waiting for our therapist. We didn't know each other. We were in the waiting room and we got to know each other. I was reading one of those magazines, like Cosmopolitan something. And I was chortling. I was like, see, like Gerber. I was gurgling my Gerber over these kind of sex columns. Look at this! I'm trying to center. I'm doing centering exercises because sometimes now you see why I probably shouldn't talk. Ever. Again. Because those little sexy columns, they make me get a little out of control. So I was there and I was chortling. I'll keep it in. I was chortling. I was chortling. Chortling because I was so happy with the stupid nuances of this very brilliant mind that was giving people advice about sexiness. Sexiness. And me, being a little bit straight-laced and uptight, I wasn't quite following all the advice on the sexiness. And I was just having a riot. And I was like this. Get a load of the sexiness. And I was just like pointing down on the column. Oh, look. And I think that's how Senorita Snuggles at the time. And I think that's how she got wind of all my needs. Because I was like, what's that? And she was like, oh, you don't know what that is? I'm like, what is that? And she's like, that was the beginning of my insecurity on my sexual issues. Senorita Snuggles. Making me feel all kind of caught up in my mind about my member. Now, when people are laughing at us for our sexual issues, and at that time I didn't even know that I had sexual issues until she started laughing. And then you could bet I had them for sure. But that was good. That was good. You know, I'm someone who takes the silver lining of anything. I'm an optimist. I'm a glass half full kind of guy. And when she was laughing, I was laughing. I got to that point because I read that in another column in another magazine that if someone laughs with you, you laugh at yourself extra hard. But what I'm trying to say to you is, Senorita Snuggles, she was really attuned to me and my needs. My needs were front and center. I might have been fading out of the picture because I didn't know how to take care of myself. You know, everything's about self-love and keeping yourself in the center of the picture and not getting carried away. Bringing yourself back to the center of your own attention, where you're the one who's in full view of your life and how to live and how to be. She saw me for who I am and loved me for who I am, which was the beginning of my self-love, because my self-love just piggybacked on Senorita Snuggles' love of me in that moment when we were going in to see our therapist. We were looking at the sexy magazine and the sexy columns and having the sexy thoughts and feeling sexiness toward each other, and that's when we started the Cuddle Fest. Well, that's what I call it because I'm Captain Cuddles. I'm Captain Cuddles, so if I'm cuddling, it's a cuddle fest, but Senorita Snuggles on it. She calls it a snuggle fest. The nerve! Now, at the time, because I was cuddling and she was snuggling, I wasn't going to make a big deal out of the fact that we had a discrepancy in our nomenclature. I was just happy because I had been deprived of the necessary oxytocin release in my own body. I was a shell of adrenaline. I was a shell of testosterone. And I can just bet that she was feeling like she needed some more of that good stuff herself. What is it called? You know, the female stuff. It starts with an E. I don't remember. It's getting hot in here. Estrogen. Big words don't come to me fast. I have to do a Google search. So there we are. We've got the same therapist. They call my name. I don't get up. I'm Captain Cuddles with my new girl. Well, then they skip me, and she's next in line. They call her name, but she doesn't get up. She's Senorita Snuggles. And there we are, we're just all over each other. Taking each other into a new time zone. I knocked her into next week with my tongue alone. She had her hands on my dairy air. That's right, milk coming down from the sky into my dairy air. Woo, Nelly. Now you know I don't talk much. Because when I do, I sound like an absolute fool. Well, anyways, the therapist, she came out into the waiting room. He takes one look at Captain Cuddles, at Senorita Snuggles, and he says, "You guys are done here. You don't need any more therapy. You found each other. Now you just get your love fest on and get out of here." And that was 10 years ago this holiday season. So we're about to break up, though, because ever since that day, we have never been able to agree on this fundamental issue in our relationship, whether we are cuddling or whether we are snuggling. Now, I don't expect you to really grok the significance of that difference. But you know how couples are. That if everything is fine and there's no extravagant difficulty, they're going to have to fabricate a difficulty. And I noticed the seed of dissent between us was sown in the first moment that we touched each other and laid eyes on one another. That from that moment on, I would be known as Captain Cuddles and she would be Senorita Snuggles. And that would be the genesis of the conflict that would tear us apart. So I'm thinking that after 10 years, we're probably going to have to go back to that same therapist and consciously decouple. Because there is absolutely no way that I can be thinking one thing and she can be thinking another. Because you know and I know that if you're in a relationship with someone, you pretty much need to think about the same thing in the same way all the time. That's what makes a relationship good. That's what makes it fully functional. And if there is a disagreement at any point in any category or topic, I don't know, there might be something wrong with my fundamental assumption. Please leave a comment if you think that I'm on the wrong track. What I'm trying to do is I have an idea of what a relationship should be. I've talked to a lot of people, I've conducted a lot of research over the years. If there is one disagreement, then that leaves the door open for 2 disagreements, which leaves the door open for 3 disagreements, which leaves the door open for 4 disagreements. If you have one disagreement, you are effectively terminated. So this one disagreement about whether we are cuddling or snuggling, and that changes. I don't want to go into details, but I have an active imagination. And sometimes I go off on a story. It may not necessarily have any applicability to reality. It may not be a one-on-one correspondence. It may not be accurate representation of my situation, of my feelings, of my thoughts. So yeah, an issue I've been having lately is that I just you know, it's the holidays, and we're a little bit lonely, and I don't talk to people, and I'm really caught up. So sometimes I just, I invent things to keep myself occupied and to pretend that maybe I have something important and significant to think about in my life. So what I'm trying to say to you is that I'm ashamed. I want to make things up with my girl. There's a part of me that's deep inside of me, a dissonance, something that crackles inside and splits and shatters and fragments throughout. And it's this sense, this knowledge that I have that maybe I'm destroying a good thing, the best thing I've ever known, and that maybe I want to go back to the therapist just because it's so intense to be wallowing in my neurosis. That because I've lost conviction about how to live my life, I think I'm inventing a problem so that I have to forget what's most important and significant. And so this issue that I have about snuggling versus cuddling, and Captain Cuddles versus Senorita Snuggles, and what's going on in the relationship, and maybe I gotta go back to therapy, I don't know. Maybe I'm just making a neurosis because I don't even know what life is about. I got a lot of smart friends and I see them doing the same things. I got a lot of smart minds, got a lot of brilliant intellectual friends. Sometimes I think they're just cooking it up. They ain't got nothing better to do. They're done playing their video games, right? There's no good movies on TV. And they gave up philosophizing and spirituality, and they gave up thinking, but they're really smart. So what they do is they create problems. And I don't know. I don't know, man. Maybe I just kind of, I'm copying my buddies because they're so smart and so inspiring, and I'm thinking, well, maybe if they make up problems too because they're bored and they got clarity in their life, maybe that's what I'm doing too, and maybe it's not important whether we're cuddling or snuggling. Maybe it's important. Maybe it's important that, she can say that we're snuggling. And I can say that we're cuddling, and Captain Cuddles and Senorita Snuggles. I don't have to even disagree about that. That can just be a difference of opinion. And maybe my intellectual friends, they can go fuck themselves. If they want to sit around and have problems inside their brilliant minds, like the worms that are eating away at the gray matter, worms that are eating away like words. If they want to do that, that's fine, but I'm not going back. I'm not going back to the therapist just because I gotta invent a problem with my girl. My girl is fucking dope, man. My girl is, I love that bitch. And she does something to me. My heart flutters like a butterfly when I look at her, and then when we come together and I'm cuddling her and she's snuggling me, I get clarity. I get clarity because I got this need taken care of. I mean, I know I got about 56 needs on those yellow notepads, and she's got about 56 needs too. We make sure that they match. But when it's all said and done, and at the end of the day, what's most important is that I'm cuddling with my girl, and my girl is snuggling with me, and we're taking care of each other's needs, and then we get up and we do our separate thing. Happy holidays.